Okay, the topics we want to cover today, we'll do some brief introductions, not every single person in here, but our staff. We'll talk about our programming and some FSU programming, living in Tallahassee, cybersecurity, safety in the US, healthcare, which is really important for you to pay attention to because the system in the US is probably different than what you might have been used to in your home country. FSU academic resources and succeeding as a student at FSU. Then we really want you to listen to the F1 immigration section because you know, there's all the university rules your department will have, but because you're going to be here as international students, you have a layer of rules and regulations that are important for you to understand so that you won't run into problems related to your immigration status. And then, like I said, at the end, we'll come back for a Q&A. Our office has a wonderful building on campus that you won't get to know as much in the spring as hopefully you will in the future. But we have a staff in our International Student and Scholar Services section. We've got advisors here. During this orientation, you'll hear from Tanya. Quinn, most of you know because his name is going to be or is on your I-20. Betty Jensen is an advisor. Angelique Stevens is an advisor. She'll be coming back after a leave. She'll be back in January. Some of you will be assigned to Betty, some to Angelique, and Jared, you'll be talking to, he'll be speaking later in the presentation. Tanya Khalif is our immigration associate. Some of you met her in the breakout room. And then Luciana works with us, but she handles faculty and staff issues. So that's the big area in our office that supports you as an international student with immigration. The rest of our staff, our director is Cindy Green, and we have a tech person, we have communications coordinator. Laura, you've already heard from. She'll be telling you more about our programs. Anyhow, we're all here to support you as an international student while you're at FSU. Okay, usually I was telling my breakout room group, we'd have a big room, you'd be in there and we'd call out countries and you'd stand up. As I told my breakout room, everybody's always surprised when we say Panama, and a lot of students stand up. For those of you who are not from the FSU Panama campus, we always have to explain that FSU has a campus there. And students in Panama aren't only from Panama, they come from other countries to study in Panama. These are countries we know based on your registration that students were going to be here, but we also had students register from Bulgaria, let's see, India and Russia. Yeah, they're not on there. If we missed your home country, if you could put it in the chat box and Laura will be able to acknowledge you too. We think one of the benefits of coming to Tallahassee to study is the chance you get to meet people not only from the US, but from all over the world. I know that's what makes our jobs really interesting and rewarding. We're going to go ahead and do a Zoom poll. You may have been doing those in your classes. This is just a short one to get a sense of who you are and what you're doing. So we'll take a couple of minutes so you can answer those questions on your screen. If you're a first year or a transfer student, if you will be in Tallahassee, or if you're going to be studying remotely, and are you a student athlete? And we'll show you the results after we give a few minutes for people to put their answers in there. Okay, I don't see more. Well, there's another response. We'll close this down in a couple of minutes. Well, actually sooner than a couple of minutes. Oh, that's good. Okay, Laura, do you want to go ahead and end polling and let everybody see the results? Okay, transfer student. Let's say a shout out to the first year students. That doesn't happen a lot because of that campus at FSU Panama, and also students transferring from community colleges or other colleges in the US and specifically Florida. So transfer students is a real common response for undergraduates. Spring semester, we like seeing that. We hope that you've been successful with visas. We know that has been a real holdup for a lot of people. And those of you outside the US, we hope that you'll engage with us virtually in the programs Laura will be talking about. We include the question about student athletes, as I explained in my breakout room. FSU sports have a lot of international student athletes, and it makes it a lot more fun, I think, for me to go cheer our students when I get to watch a lot of the different sports. So thanks a lot. Let's stop sharing and we can go ahead and move on once Laura, okay.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Kristen. So as mentioned, I am the CGE Programs Coordinator. My name is Laura. I get to do all of the fun connecting with you all, whether it's through orientation or just different programs that we offer. So I'm just going to go through a few examples of some things that you'll see continuously throughout the semester, but this is by no means everything that we do. So if you ever have other questions or want to learn more about our programming and potentially collaborate, I'm always open to that. So just feel free to connect with me. All right, so in terms of our virtual events, one of our continuing events is called English Conversation Club. It's for those of you that want a space to practice your conversational English skills. We bring in domestic student facilitators to help guide the conversation. But even if you're fairly confident in your English skills and you still want to connect with people, it's a great space to do that. It's held every weekday from 4 to 5, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays we do it from 9 to 10 a.m. for those of you that are in different time zones or will be throughout the semester. And it's all done via Zoom, so you don't have to worry about coming into campus or anything. Typically it was held in person pre-COVID, but now we've made it into a Zoom event, so you won't have to worry about any contact. But it's a great opportunity to connect with people, have conversations casually, and also practice those conversational skills. Meditation Monday is another continuous event that we have every Monday from 12 to 1 p.m. It's a great chance for you to sort of recollect yourself for the start of the semester, kind of get off to a good start. We have a CGE staff member who's great at guiding a 20-minute meditation. And so for those of you that are new to it, it's fairly easy to jump in. For those of you that are familiar with a meditation, hopefully we'll see you there. But again, it's something that's held via Zoom, so you won't have to worry about coming into campus. And then our signature event is International Coffee Hour. This too is held every Friday from 5 to 6:30. And again, held via Zoom. We do a cooking demonstration with our chef, Jesse, who's one of our staff members, really skilled at making cuisines from all around the world. And we partner either with international students or with student organizations that want to feature their particular country and culture. So if that's of interest to you and you really want to get involved, you can reach out to me and I'd be happy to let you know how you can get collaborating with us on Coffee Hour. For different opportunities in terms of what CGE offers, we do recommend that you check out our CGE website, as well as our welcome.fsu.edu website, which is more general events across the FSU campus. You can also consider our Global Citizenship Certificate. That's open to all undergraduate students and is a certificate that can replace in some ways a minor and just again kind of further advances your global citizenship and intercultural competency skills. For when we are back in campus, I just wanted to give you some pictures, highlights of events that we've done in the past. So next slide, Quinn, there we go. We've got tons of events that we typically do in person. And so once we're all sort of back to quote unquote normal, hopefully we'll have more opportunities for you all to come to campus, come to the Center for Global Engagement, and really see all of the wonderful events that we put together with all of you as students. And something else that I wanted to highlight to you all, you will all be joining our Canvas page. We have a Canvas page to highlight upcoming programs, advising hours, immigration updates. We also have a neat section called FSU Video Resources, where we do interviews with different areas around campus to really highlight resources that we think are important for you all to know and understand what they represent and how you can engage with them. They're very short, about 10 minutes each, so it should be a nice way for you to feel like you can connect and learn more about the campus. We're also sending out monthly newsletters to all international students, and this newsletter is specific to you in terms of anything that we need to tell you, whether it's a program, a workshop, an immigration update. All of that will be included in that newsletter. So if you don't read many emails, this is the one email that we highly recommend that you concentrate on. For the Canvas page, you will have to join the organization to access that site. So we do recommend that you do that because, again, it's great. Canvas will send you notifications when I've updated it. And so you can always stay engaged with us in some way or another. And I'd also like to say for the Canvas page, you will be added to it in about second week of January. So don't expect it this week or even the first week of January. You'll probably see that pop up in the second week of January. So like I mentioned, I definitely recommend you all to check out the welcome.fsu.edu site. There will be some in-person social distancing events in January, and there will also be some online Zoom events as well. But this is the greater campus that's providing opportunities for you all to engage, connect with one another, and basically welcome you to FSU. So I genuinely recommend, as new undergraduates, that you check this out. And for the next slide, this is another site that I recommend that you all just check out. These are all of the services that will be offered through FSU that are virtual. So again, something that I think we all are interested in seeing is how much FSU has gone virtual, which is to say almost everything is virtual. So if you want to know more about the different areas in campus and how you can engage virtually, this is the place to do that. Okay, finally, to stay connected with us, there's also a weekly newsletter that we send out to our community called Global Connections. This isn't just for international students, it's for all of campus. So if you're interested in that, that'll have weekly updates on all the programs, events, things that we're doing on campus. You can also connect with us on social media. I know we all have Instagram or Twitters maybe that we like to engage with. And so we're on most platforms at FSU CGE. So if that's the way that you like to engage, please feel free to follow us and we will update you that way. All right, thank you all for listening, and I'm gonna pass it on to Quinn.
All right, thank you, Laura. Hi, everyone. So my name is Quinn O'Brien. I've spoken with most of you either via Zoom meeting or via email, but I'm international student advisor at the CGE, and I primarily help all of our new students, which will mostly be you, with transitioning to FSU, getting your I-20, F1 visa application, stuff like that. So I'm going to just be talking to you about living in Tallahassee. So I spent nearly half my life in Tallahassee. I did my undergraduate there, did my grad school there. So it's one of my favorite places in the world, and we just kind of wanted to talk to you about some of the cool things that you can do while you're in Tallahassee. Just one thing before we kind of go over anything is just to kind of give you a general idea about COVID-19 updates. So most of the things that we're going to be showing you today are almost assuredly going to be impacted by COVID-19. We strongly recommend that you follow social distancing and other CDC approved protocols. We have multiple links to this on our website. You should pretty much be familiar with the process by now. But Florida State University and the city of Tallahassee will be issuing updates as activities kind of resume, and as there are safety updates for different health updates as well. So this presentation is just meant to show you kind of some of what's available in Tallahassee. It is by no means an exhaustive list. There's way too much that can be covered. This is just us kind of showing you kind of an idea of some of the things you can do while you're here. one of the first things that I recommend you do is you download the MyFsu app. It works for iOS, Android, pretty much any platform that you're on, you can download this app. It's kind of a one-stop shop for everything. It's got your tasks that you need to do if you have any holds. It has academic run-throughs, your classes, your schedule, finances, if you have any fees that need to be paid, who you can talk to about that, just pretty much anything that you need to stay connected on campus. So again, we strongly, strongly recommend that you get this downloaded. You should be able to download it now before you arrive and just kind of get an understanding of how the app works, because once you get here, it is a very strong tool for kind of navigating the things that you might need to do while you're on campus. So seminal dining, there's a lot of places to eat on campus. We tried to show this map for you just so you could see like the number of locations that are available to you, including some of the ones that are over at the College of Engineering. We actually have a bit of a transition period right now. We had one vendor that was our primary service provider, and now we have an old vendor that used to be our primary service provider has come back. So the website is in a bit of a transition stage right now. I included the most recent update here at the bottom of the page, but honestly, if you just search for seminal dining, it'll pull up the website and you can kind of see everything you need to know. So if you want to purchase a meal plan, which I highly recommend because it's pretty cheap, all things considered, and you get some really good meals out of it, you can do that through seminal dining. You can see menus of where you want to eat each day. You can get an idea about hours, about social distancing protocols, how you can get things to take back to your apartment or your dorm. So definitely recommend that when you get a moment, go ahead and check out seminal dining just so you can get an idea about how you can eat on campus. For transportation, you're going to definitely want to go to transportation.fsu.edu, and you can use these tools that we've included here. So Translock and Star Metro are a way that you can use the bus system in Tallahassee. So there isn't a subway, you're not going to be using cabs very often, but we do have really excellent buses that go pretty much all over campus and all over Tallahassee proper. So if you're going to be living in an apartment complex off campus, I can almost guarantee that you're going to be close to a bus stop that you can use to get on campus. So it's going to be a very good idea for you to kind of look at these routes, plan out your trip. You can get an idea about how Translock works, so you can see about tracking the buses and kind of figuring out when you can get on campus. So definitely recommend that you check those out, and you can, again, access them directly through these links here, or you can go to transportation.fsu.edu. Another thing you can do on transportation.fsu.edu is get your parking pass. So if you are going to be having a car while you're in the United States, perfectly okay. Just make sure you have your driver's license and everything like that. Once you do that, you can go ahead and get your parking pass. It is a virtual parking pass, so you don't have to put it on your car. It's just going to be, you're going to just register your car and your driver's license and your license plate. And then that way, when you can park on campus, you won't get any tickets. Just if you are going to be driving on campus, one thing to remember is that there are certain spots that you're allowed to park in, which are the white parking spots. And there are certain spots that you can only park in at certain times, which are the red parking spots. So if you see a white spot that is a student parking spot, you can park there, no issues. If you see a red or a garnet parking spot, generally speaking, you can't park there until after 4:30 or 5:30. After that time, it's fair game, you can park there. Otherwise, you will get a ticket, which will put a fee on your account, and it will actually prevent you from signing up for classes. So just keep in mind about where you park. And then if for some reason you're going to be having a motorcycle, or if there's an incident and you need to have handicap parking, there are locations all across campus for you. So one thing that's very important that you definitely need to plan ahead of time is opening a US bank account. Not many of you will have student assistantships, but if there are any situations in which you need to receive money from the college, either through a scholarship, if you're an athlete receiving a stipend, things of that nature, you need to have a US bank account, and it's just a generally good idea to have one anyway. We include the big three here, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and SunTrust, just because the larger banks tend to have protocols and procedures in place for international students that makes things a little bit more streamlined for you. You're obviously welcome to pick any bank that you want. There are a ton of great local banks, credit unions, things of that nature. But we do usually recommend a larger bank just because it does tend to work a little bit easier as an international student. These are just some general tips. Make sure that you ask about fees. When you go there, don't use anything that's been assigned to you by FSU, like your IMPLID or your FSU ID. Those things are not really relevant. They're going to be more asking for your passport, your I-20, proof of who you are, essentially. If you do go to the SunTrust on campus, SunTrust does have a relationship with FSU. So in that situation, your FSU ID might be used and your IMPLID might be used. But for the most part, you're going to want to make sure that you bring your immigration documents, your passport, and an initial amount to deposit, just because if you're opening an account, you need to have money with you. This point really can't be emphasized enough. We strongly encourage you to contact the bank ahead of time to make an appointment, because to open a new account, you generally have to be there in person to do so. And there are increased wait times right now due to COVID-19. And just the entire process is a little bit longer taking than it usually would be. So since this is something that's very important for you to do, this is one of those things that you can start doing now. Like, you can find a bank that you like in Tallahassee. You can reach out to them via email or phone call, explain to them your situation, and see if you can make an arrangement so that you can speak to them and open up a new account when you do arrive in Tallahassee. Now, some of the things that you can definitely do right now in social distance is enjoying the outdoors. And that's something that FSU and Tallahassee in general just has a ton of great opportunities to do. These are just some of the examples, and I'm going to show you some of my personal favorites here in just a moment. But you can use Campus Rec, which is campus recreation, to register for an outdoor pursuit trips. There's usually a small fee, but they'll give you transportation, gear, they'll guide you through it. These are things like kayaking trips, canoe trips. These have been reduced due to COVID-19, but they are resuming. So this is something that you will be able to do. There's a ton of great trails and places to hike and walking, biking, jogging. So you can go to Appalachia Florida Trail or Tallahassee.com. You can join the Recycle Bike program at FSU, which is a way for you to get a cheap bike on campus. And the point is, you use it while you're here and then you return it when you're gone. Again, really great way to get a cheap bike. And there's, like I said, a lot of great bike paths in Tally. And then there's the res. You can take a sailing class, you can go canoeing, kayaking, play volleyball. We'll talk about the res here in just a minute. But one of my personal favorite places is the Alfred Greenway. Most people just call it the Greenway. It's a combination of both a park and a hiking trail. It goes around Lake Lafayette, which a lot of people use for fishing and kayaking. It's really great for hiking. It's a 4-mile trail, very easy. It's circular, so you can just do laps if you want to. And it connects with Tom Brown Park, which is arguably our best park. It's massive, and there's a ton of stuff you can do. Despite how awesome this park is, it's generally less crowded than other parks. Not many people know about it. So because of that, it's kind of perfect if you're just trying to do your own thing, just put some music on and go walking, or just sit outside and read a book, or if, again, you're into hiking or jogging. So really can't recommend it enough. It's probably one of my favorite places in Tallahassee. And one thing you need to do, although probably not necessarily now because it's getting cold for Florida, is going tubing. You can tube the Itchentopney River. It's about a 3.5-mile float. If you don't know what tubing is, it's pretty much a quintessential American activity where you just get an inner tube, you sit at the top of the river, and you just float to the bottom of it over about 3 or 4 hours. It's incredibly relaxing. Usually just get some friends, get some food, just relax, have a good day, make it a weekend. The Itchentopney in particular is great because it's a fresh spring water, which means that the water maintains the same temperature, 72 degrees Fahrenheit year round. Again, that's a little chilly for right now, but when it's the middle of June and you're sitting at 95 degrees, a 72-degree float down the Itchentopney is like one of the best things you can possibly experience. So again, cannot recommend it enough. Definitely go this summer if you get a chance. It is incredibly fun. One of the coolest things that FSU has in general is the FSU Reservation. Everybody just calls it the Res. This is a massive outdoor lakefront property that's completely free to FSU students. Any outdoor activity you can think of, you can do there. So canoeing, kayaking, disc golf, volleyball, swimming, there's rope courses, again, hiking trails, there's a little beach. It's the closest thing that we have to a beach in Tallahassee. If you want to get to a really good beach, you have to drive like 2 hours. If you want to get to an okay beach, you have to drive about an hour, or you can just go to the Res, which is usually about 20 minutes away. There's tons of group activities that are organized via the FSU Campus Rec. It is open this spring, but you should check out the Campus Rec website ahead of time just to kind of see what attendance guidelines there might be, and just kind of what you should expect in terms of whether or not you have to have that mask or what the social distancing protocols are going to be. But again, definitely check out the Res while you're here. It's one of the coolest things you can do at FSU. Athletics. So FSU is classified as a Division I program. So among other colleges and universities, this pretty much means that all of our athletes are competing at the highest possible level of collegiate athletics. Within our division, we are in something called the Atlantic Coast Conference. So our conference is the ACC. This is one of the so-called Power 5 conferences. So that means within the highest level of college athletics, we are in one of the strongest conferences. So suffice it to say, it means almost all of our athletic events are going to be you seeing some of the best athletes in the world competing, which is pretty amazing for you as a student because all athletics events are free for students except for championship situations. So one of the cool things at FSU is that generally speaking, almost any one of our teams at any given point could probably be in a championship. So those won't be free for you, but because we win so much, it means that you might have to pay to get to one every now and then. We're still trying to determine the impact that COVID-19 will have on some of our athletic events. For example, our football games have been open, but with restricted attendance. It's been the same thing for a lot of our other college athletic events. You should assume that for the time being that there are going to be fairly severe restrictions in terms of public attendance. And that's going to probably maintain that way until there's something announced by the university, likely once we have a little bit more information about vaccines and just kind of the general safety and wellness guidelines for COVID-19. So you will be able to watch quite a few of these sports online, and you can watch some of them via televised broadcasts. But in terms of in-person attendance, you're probably going to have to wait a little bit before you get a chance to see some of the bigger events. And these are just some examples. This is by no means exhaustive. We have a ton of great teams at FSU, but our men's baseball team is one of the best programs in the country, one of the most consistently winning programs in the country. Our basketball team, in my opinion, was going to win the national championship last year, and we still look really strong this year. Our women's softball team just won a national championship. Our women's volleyball team is consistently one of the best. Our women's soccer team has won 2 championships in the past 5 years. They're looking like another one again this year. Our football team is a little rough, but it's still fun and it's still a great time. And honestly, they're going to bounce back soon anyway. But again, all of our sports, our swim teams are amazing. Our tennis teams are amazing. So if you get a chance while you're here, once things are a little bit more defined in terms of attendance, go to an FSU sporting event. You won't regret it. Beyond sports, there's a ton of just activity groups on campus. There are dozens upon dozens of FSU club organizations. This is everything from comedy groups, a cappella groups, ensemble bands, solo acts, dancing, pretty much anything you can think of. There's a group on campus, and there's a group that does things really well on campus. Most of these are open to tryout. So they'll usually announce if there are going to be tryouts. So if you're interested in getting involved, if you want to sing, if you want to perform, if you want to get into acting, you can look at some of these groups and you can join them. Or again, with social distancing in mind, you can attend some of these concerts, some of these events. And then bar none, the coolest thing that FSU has is a circus. So there are 2 collegiate circuses in the United States, and the other one is like nothing compared to ours. Like they're amateurs. Ours is amazing. It's completely run by FSU students. It's one of the best in the country. It's a legitimate circus. You can see from the pictures here. It's a massive black top and a massive flat top up top. It's one of the best shows you can go to. I highly recommend that you go to the Halloween version of the event. It's amazing. Everybody dresses up. There's candy, there's music, there's junk food. The trapeze is awesome. You'll occasionally see people on unicycles riding around campus. Those are the campus performers, the circus performers practicing before events. So it is really one of the coolest things you can do at FSU. If you have to do one thing at FSU over the next few years, you should go to a circus performance. And then beyond FSU events, there's a ton of things that happen in Tallahassee proper. These are just some examples. This is obviously pre-COVID, but things are starting to kind of pick up just a little bit. And I'm expecting to see more and more events start to get planned once the vaccines become a little bit more widely distributed. But these are just some examples. You've got First Friday there at the top left, where people go and just kind of see some of the art that's going around. We've got cultural events, dance events, music events. We've got winter concerts. There's usually a lot of parades, again, obviously not right now. And then we've got Christmas light selections. We've got the Jingle Bell Run. So there's a lot of cool things you can do in Tallahassee. You can go to visitTallahassee.com just to kind of see as those events reopen. And then right now they're also running virtual events. So you can go to visitTallahassee.com and just click on the virtual experiences button. And it's a full list of activities and experiences that you can have from home. So it's everything from viewing some of the concerts and museums that are in Tallahassee to movies. It's just kind of a way for you to kind of stay at home and just kind of take a look at everything, just kind of see what's available to you. So can't recommend it enough. So that is just a little slice of Tallahassee. Next up, we actually have a video from Philip Kramer, who is one of our security training coordinators on campus. He is essentially a person who's going to be walking you through in a very brief video, just some cybersecurity tips and some things that you need to be aware of as you transition to FSU. He was kind enough to record the video for us so that we could just play this for you. You can get that information. One thing to note is that while he was recording his video, apparently his Wi-Fi cut out a few times. So there might be a few times when the video seems like it's not playing or it cuts out, but if you just give it a second or two, it should load. So we will go ahead and start that video for you right now.
Hi, welcome to Cybersecurity. My name is Phil Kramer, and I'm the Information Security and Privacy Office Security Training Coordinator here at FSU. And today we're going to talk about some tips to keep you safe while you're here at FSU. First thing we're going to talk about is phishing. What is phishing and the definition of phishing? So what is phishing? Phishing emails, websites, phone calls, text messages are designed to steal sensitive information from you. And cyber criminals do this by installing malicious software on your computer, or they trick you through social engineering by giving out your personal information, or just outright gaining access to your computer and stealing your information. There are some different types of phishing attacks, and we're going to talk about them now. So voice phishing, using social engineering over the phone to gain access to personal and financial information. You could also do this through texting as well, or SMS message, which we call smishing. We call voice phishing vishing. What you want to watch out for are when they call you on the phone, they're trying to steal your credit card or other information for identity theft. And they may call you and tell you you've committed a crime unless, and they're asking you for, that's the hook, $7,000, $5,000. You will be deported from the US. You will lose your legal status in the US. Don't hang up the phone or you'll be in trouble. You owe taxes and need to pay now or else. You trust me, right? That's kind of their hook phrase. And then all you have to do is pay shipping. And that comes into play when there's a deal that seems too good to be true. Just remember, it usually is, and they just want you to pay say you have to pay shipping, so you're giving out your credit card information to them, and you're definitely going to be paying more than shipping. The reason we tell you about these is that it has happened in the past where individuals have been called from the FBI, the police, INS, saying that their visa has expired and need to pay me a certain amount of money or you're going to get deported. And the individual was unaware that this was not legitimate, so they went ahead and paid the person, only to find out that it was a fraud. So just remember, these organizations will never call you on the phone asking you for that information. They will reach out to you a different way if they need something. So if somebody calls you saying they're from the FBI, just say thank you very much and politely or impolitely hang up. Social engineering, another type of phishing attack in which they use deception to manipulate you to give up your personal information that maybe end up being used for fraudulent purposes. So everything a cyber criminal needs to fool you into thinking that a message or that a personal interaction is legitimate. And then the message could be coming from someone you know. But a lot of times how they do this is just through scouring social media sites, because on Facebook, they can get your name, date of birth, location, workplace, hobbies, relationship status, favorite food, email address, if you don't lock this down on Facebook. So be careful what you share on your Instagram, Facebook feeds, because people can get information from you and build a profile of you and befriend you only for deceptive purposes in order for trying to trick you into giving up information that will benefit them financially. Different types of phishing attacks. Spear phishing is one of them, and it accounts for 91% of phishing attacks, and it's the most successful one on the internet today. And that's where they're sending a fraudulent email from a known or trusted sender in order to trick you into giving up confidential information. So it may be saying it's the FSU Financial Aid Office, and they're trying to get you to update your credit card information with them. So you think it's legitimate based on who it's coming from, and you upload your new credit card information only to find out that it's a fake website you're uploading to. These folks, once again, they won't call you on the phone. They're going to reach out to you other ways if you need to update your information. Once again, the attacker also gathers that personal information through social engineering to increase the probability of success. So they increase the familiarity with you, thinking that it's going to be legitimate. Clone phishing is another big one that we see. It's where they actually replicate a legitimate previously delivered email, and replace that link inside that email with a malicious version of a link, or a link going somewhere else, not to where it said it's going. So you'll see an important announcement from FSU about something, and the email address looks like it's going to www.fsu.edu, but when you hover over it or long click on it, you'll see that it's going to fsu.lt.edu, which is not an FSU website. That is a website that is going to be malicious. They send it to the same recipient address as the original message, and it's sent through an email address spoofed to appear as it's coming from the original sender. So everything looks great. It looks like a legitimate email until you hover over that link and find out it's going to not an FSU site. So just be very, very careful with this. And this is what we call link manipulation, which is the strategy in which they spoof that link. That looks like it's legitimate. So it looks like it's going to fsu.edu, but there's a subdomain in there, fsu.lt.edu, and that's where it's going to go. It's going to go to the fsu.lt site, and it may look legitimate when you click on it, and it's asking you to update your user ID and password or update your financial aid information, and then now they have you. So look for misspelled URLs or these subdomains. The way you can do this is by hovering over or long tapping on that link to see where the website's going to. And then also your email client or web browser will show the preview of the link in the bottom left of the screen, so you can also look that way. But anytime you see a subdomain, or sometimes it's just a total different website, it may say fsu.edu, but when you hover over it, it's going to webmail.ru. So you just need to be careful when you look at these emails. How do you protect yourself? Just remember, the main thing is FSU will never ask you for your password over email. FSU is not going to call you on the phone asking you for your password. FBI, INS, Social Security Administration, for any information over the phone. So just remember that. If you receive a call like this, like I said, hang up. Also, here are some tips. Delete emails asking for passwords. Never do email saying you need to update your password. Just delete it right away. You can also send those to our abuse@fsu.edu email address. That's where we gather all these phishing emails and decide whether or not. And if we see a common email going out, we put it on our ISPO website. The address will be later in the slide presentation, into our fish tank, where you can go and look at the phishing emails to see if it's one that you've got that you know is bad. Don't send your passwords, bank account informations, or other private information in email or through a link in an email. Always be cautious opening attachments. If you're not expecting an attachment from someone and they send you something, don't feel bad if you check with them and ask them, did you mean to send me this? Because the attachment may be installing malicious software on your computer when you click on it. So you need to be careful. Always contact the bank, credit card, or company with whom you're doing business. If someone from there calls you saying there's something wrong with your credit card, you want to make sure someone didn't find out you bought something from a certain website and is calling you to get your credit card numbers so they can use it for their personal gain. Hover or long tap links in the emails to make sure that the URL in that email is going to where it says it's going. Always look for that HTTPS and a lock icon in the website address bar before you enter any private information into a website form. If it's asking you for credit card or password information, if it doesn't have the HTTPS or a lock, that means it's not secure and you're sending your information through the internet in clear text that can be captured. If it has the HTTPS and a lock, it means it's encrypted. So it's being guarded. Some are very, very bad. So you just need to read them carefully, take your time. Don't act on impulse. Here are some additional resources we have available for you. There's our ISPO website at the top where you can get information security and privacy information. Also, our fish tank is there. You can check to see if the email you received is in the fish tank. Another good one is the consumer.ftc.gov with all the phone scams. They update that regularly, talk about people calling about COVID virus relief, for example, and it's a scam. They try to get you, give me your credit card so I can send you the money. And all of a sudden you give me your credit card, but they're not sending you money, they're taking your money. FBI.gov is a scams dash safety slash fraud, great site. Find out what fraud attempts are out there as well. ITS also has resources that are available to the international students. We have Office 365 that you can download for free. There's LinkedIn Learning, great resource where you can not only learn computer courses, but there's other things, project management, program management, etc. Student computing support is discounted and has on-campus software support for your personal computer. We have FSU Secure Wi-Fi all over, free Wi-Fi service. We have the service desk that's available for you at help.fsu.edu, and you can get more info on the ITS resources at the its.fsu.edu/students website. We also have a Twitter at Florida State ITS, where we send out information that's going on and tips and tricks to keep you safe as well. Here's my contact information. Please feel free to contact me at any time if you have any questions. Also, if you need to get a hold of me, you can also work through Kevin Galatera there at the Center for Global Engagement, and he can put you in touch with me. Thank you for your time, and welcome to FSU.
And again, I'll just go ahead and leave this up just for a second or two, just so if you are interested, you can take down his information. He, again, is a great contact to have. He's been very helpful with all of our international students, and an amazing resource if you do have any questions when it comes to anything regarding cybersecurity. But with that in mind, we are going to go ahead and switch over to safety in the United States, and we're going to hand it back over to Kristen Hagan.
Okay, thank you, Quinn. All right, this is a little bit repetitive because Philip mentioned it, but maybe with another voice, you'll really pay attention. We have had international students become victims of scams and lose lots of money. We don't want that to happen to any of you. The scammers know that you're vulnerable. You care about your immigration status. You want to do what's right, and you may be uncertain about whether the person calling, if you picked up the phone, one thing to do is if you don't know the phone number, don't pick up the phone, see if you get a voicemail. If they leave a message and it's something like this, do not worry about returning their call. If you are afraid to hang up, or if you're afraid not to return the call, contact an advisor in our office. You can contact the FSU Police. Somebody you trust, get a second opinion before you do anything about sending money, going and buying gift cards. You may think, of course, you'll never fall victim to one of these scams, but the scammers are really convincing. And students have, well, at least one student walked into our office and we ended up hanging up the phone for him. He had already been on the phone for an hour with the scammer. Another student's roommate told her she needed to call us. So they used another phone, called us. She described the call and we said, hang up. So anyhow, pay attention to that. There's lots of web resources. Be alert. FSU Police Department. They have a building right across from ours on campus. We are a community. FSU is practically its own town, does have the FSU Police Department. They have a lot of training and resources. There's a list right there. Like we said, we're recording this video, so you can always go back and look. You can go to their website and see if you want to do any of these things: drinking and driving video, active shooter training, sexual violence prevention, information about stalking. You can register your property. If you have a bike and you'd like to get contacted if it gets stolen, or your laptop or something, you can register it with the FSU Police. So then if it shows up as when the police find a treasure trove of things that have been stolen, it would get back to you. They also have crime maps and information about different neighborhoods in Tallahassee. So there's a lot of websites, good resources on this page. Okay, FSU Guardian, if you do happen to have a medical condition that you would want first responders to know about, you can go ahead and sign up for that. It's only available to the police dispatchers, but it would be good in an emergency if there is something that they should know about, a health condition, something like that. Okay, the fall is really over. We're going into winter, and we've had a great fall, meaning we did not have to shut down for hurricanes or horrible weather. Again, this resource will be available. You can look at it later, but here are ways you can be prepared in case there's hurricane warnings and if we expect any really, really bad weather. By far, the most common thing to happen in Tallahassee is that we can lose power. So it's always good to be prepared for that. There are also sites that you can, or an app you can get on your phone so you can keep alert for the different weather. Nice thing about hurricanes is we have a general idea that they're coming, and so it's there's some time to prepare, but at the same time, people make a rush on the store. So having a few things around is never a bad idea in the fall. Hopefully we don't get a late one this year. Student conduct. I know when you're students, you're thinking about your academics, your grades, what you're doing on campus, and there is academic honor policies. There is also a student conduct code, and you can have consequences like being suspended from school, depending on how you treat others, both on and off campus. So the student code of conduct, which you can, there's a link that'll go to the full booklet. There are expectations related to your interaction with gender interactions, discrimination, sexual respect, substance abuse. FSU is a community of lots of young people, and we want everybody to be respectful of each other. No more sexual misconduct. There's a link there. That's a program that was started by students just to inform people of what is appropriate behavior. Report.fsu, I'm going to show you a screenshot of that place. You can just go there online and report an incident or something that concerns you. And then, like I said, violations of the student conduct code can result in consequences related to your enrollment. Victims are not blamed. It is okay to report and get help. There is confidential help, meaning if you talk to anybody on this list, they are not obligated to report the incident to anybody. They're just there to help you. There's the Victim Advocate Program. We have a university counseling center that provides wonderful resources. I can't promote it enough. Students get stressed, and even if you don't have a serious incident, if you're just getting stressed with classes or anything, use the University Counseling Center. Your fees are paying for that kind of service on campus. So whether it's stress, a relationship problem, depression, anything, use the service. University Health Services, we have our own, medical clinic. It's a large building on campus with a variety of services, but the doctors there are confidential. Outside of campus, there's Tallahassee Refuge House for victims of domestic violence, Legal Services of North Florida, where you can get free or low-cost legal services. If you let us know that something's going on, we are obligated to report it to the university offices that would be able to follow up with you. So if you want to talk to us, we're more than happy to talk to you, but we are not professionals, and we do have to report incidents that are concerning to other sources on campus. Okay, this is the report.fsu.edu site, just to let you know it's there. And you can report a variety of things. You'll see acts of discrimination. If you ever feel like because of your nationality that somebody is treating you different and it's inappropriate, you can go ahead and report it there. It's really easy. If you think something is happening to someone else and you'd like it to be looked into, you can go online and report it there. But you can see stalking, if you think a student organization is doing things they shouldn't do, like hazing. There's a variety of things, but just know it's easy, report.fsu.edu. Okay, COVID, you're experiencing this, possibly even more strict than you'll encounter in Tallahassee, but we hope you'll all be smart to stay safe, healthy, and well. Masks, maintain 6-foot distance from other people at least, limit time in public settings. As Quinn said, plan on doing things outdoors. We may not be as warm as your home country, but at least we're not going to be having snowstorms like you would if you were going up to Wisconsin or Michigan, where it would be a lot harder to spend time outside and get rid of some of your energy. So enjoy the outdoors here in Tallahassee. And of course, stay home when you're sick, even with mild symptoms. Look at the University Health Services website about what they advise you to do as students. And there is lots of testing available on the FSU campus. We've got testing. The city of Tallahassee has free testings for either the quick test, also the PCR test. You can make an appointment. They always have slots open. You can even walk up. So that's one thing I'm happy about in Tallahassee, that you never have to worry about being able to get a test when you want it, free. Some basic emergency contact information. Our office, like the university, is closing after work tomorrow. We're going to be closed for 2 weeks and only back working again on January 4th. If you're coming into the US and Customs and Border Protection for some reason doesn't see that your CBIS record, that's the record based on your I-20, is all okay, and they feel like they need to contact us, if they call the front desk number, that's the 644-1702, there is an emergency phone number on that. So if there's an immigration emergency trying to get in the country, we could be contacted that way. Life-threatening emergencies when you're in Tallahassee, 911. If there's not an emergency, but you're confused or you have questions about safety, the non-emergency FSU Police number is that 644-1234. Mental health emergencies, University Health Counseling Services has a number you can call for a hotline. You can talk to them 24 hours a day. And then transportation, you know, if somebody is intoxicated and you don't want them to be driving, go ahead and call Yellow Cab. I mean, you can call Uber, you can do whatever you want. There is an FSU discount for Yellow Cab. Thank you. I think that, yeah, that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Tanya for important information about healthcare.
Hi, I'm Tanya Shad. I advise primarily J students, and I do all the tech work you've been encountering before you got here. I did that I-20 application. If you have any feedback on that, let me know. It's relatively new, so that's my main job, but I have been advising J students and scholars for many, many years, and there is an insurance requirement for J students and scholars. So I've been intimately involved in insurance issues since I started at FSU. I am on the health insurance committee where we decide what your insurance policy is going to look like next year and how much it's going to cost. That is a committee that's open to students as well. So if you would like to be involved, just contact me and we will get you involved in that committee and you can have input as well. So just a brief overview of who I am. You probably won't see me much, but the experts on your healthcare are at the health center though. So once you get to campus, you may see this beautiful, relatively new building 2 doors down from ours called the Health and Wellness Center. That is your main source of healthcare at FSU. It's going to be your first stop with any non-emergency issue. Right now, you would definitely need an appointment to go in there. When we're past COVID-19, you could walk in the building and they can provide you services at any time. But for now, they're primarily offering telehealth. If you're in Tallahassee, and you should be soon, you can go to healthcenter.fsu.edu or uhs.fsu.edu, goes to the same place. And you'll find links to telehealth there. And that just means you're in a setting like this in Zoom, it's confidential, you're talking to a doctor about symptoms you're having or concerns you're having, and they will advise you through Zoom on what to do next. If it is something they think you need to be treated for urgently, they'll try to provide advice on, do you go to the emergency room? Do you go to urgent care? So that is how that's going to work. Sorry, let me turn off my email. So that's how that's going to work. You're going to talk to the doctor and get a recommendation for what to do next. This is always going to be your cheapest option going to the health center. They also have a lot of other services available that you should take advantage of because, like Kristen said, your fees have paid for them. But if you have an emergency, a life-threatening emergency, you think you're going to die, dial 911. This is true if you feel like someone is threatening you, chasing you, endangering your life that way. If you have fallen and you can't get up, if you are bleeding profusely, anything that is life-threatening, dial 911. Anything in between, like, I don't think I'm gonna die, but this doesn't look good, I think I should be seen soon, you will go to an urgent care facility. So there are several around town. They usually have later hours. They're usually open until 9, 10 o'clock at night, and they're usually open at least one day on the weekends. So this is where you can go, you know, in those in-between circumstances, or if you're unable to get into a physician, a regular physician quickly. Do find an in-network provider for urgent care to keep that cost low though, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a minute. Do not go to the hospital for routine care. I can't emphasize it enough. I know in many countries that's what you do. You go to the hospital for everything. Not here. So if you are in the hospital here, you are seriously ill or injured. In every other case, you're going to be someplace else, far away from the hospital. They want to keep only really sick people in the hospital, everyone else away. So do not go there if you have a stomach ache, if you're feeling cold symptoms, unless a doctor has told you. COVID-19. Sorry, we're doing this from home. Sorry. Oh, it's thrilling, these adventures with COVID-19. So anyway, if you're feeling minor symptoms, do that telehealth first and then get advice about the next steps. Sorry, 1 second.
So while Tanya's going ahead and take care of that, I can just go ahead and review some of the things that you can do as kind of a to-do list. So one thing that you will want to do if you haven't already is make sure your immunizations are taken care of. You can go to the FSU University Health Services website and you can go through and make sure that your immunizations have been turned in. You will have a hold on your account until that is done. So you're going to want to make sure that you have all the information submitted. You can also take a look at your insurance policy. If you already have one that's going to be active for FSU and meets your requirements, you can go ahead and identify your in-network hospitals and kind of the urgent care clinics that are nearby. You're also going to want to, as soon as you arrive, update your local address just so that all of your contact information is up to date, just in case there is anything weird that happens once you're here. We make sure that we have the proper information for where somebody can be contacted. You will want to make sure that your insurance card is actually printed out, because a lot of times when something does happen, Just say, for example, if you hurt yourself and you need to be transported to the hospital, they'll actually kind of go through your stuff just trying to see who they can reach out to contact. And if it's on your phone, they probably won't be able to access it. But if you have a little paper card that says what your insurance information is, then they can go ahead and use that, and it'll just kind of expedite the process. And I think Tanya's back.
I'm back, sorry.
Okay, no worries, here you go. Tanya can take over.
So it's Christmas time, people are getting packages delivered, dogs bark. Sorry about that. I'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. You can go ahead and go to the next one. Thanks. And like Quinn said, immunizations, that's a big one because it'll hold up your registration. So I know a lot of you have an orientation where you're going to be registering for classes on the 4th, I think it is, someone said. So you want to be sure that this is taken care of as soon as possible. It came up in our last orientation, some questions about this. Should I go ahead and get my immunizations done now if I can't get the records, or you know, if I haven't had MMR shots? And the answer is definitely yes. If you are able to get in and get at least your first MMR shot in your home country and get that documented on the immunization form, that will make your life a lot easier once you get here in January and you're trying to register for classes. So go ahead and take care of that now if you can. If it's going to be next week before you can see a doctor to get that immunization or get your records, you can still submit that paperwork online, but it won't be reviewed and the hold removed until January 4th when we get back in the office again. So just keep that in mind. It's good to be in queue and have it ready to go when you get back, but it may not be, you may not see that hold lifted until January 4th. If you do need a second MMR, that needs to be administered in 28 days after the first one. So what will happen in those cases is the health center records that first date. They'll remove your class registration hold temporarily so you can register. And then they'll put it back on so that they can see you again in 28 days. If you have the FSU insurance coverage, you will use that at the health center to get your immunization, your missing immunization. It will cover immunizations administered at the health center at 100%. So you won't pay anything if you're getting it at the health center. If you have some outside insurance that you've gotten through an online insurance company, they generally do not cover any type of immunizations at all. So just something to keep in mind as you're reviewing insurance policies too. If they don't cover immunizations, that's likely to mean they won't cover a COVID-19 immunization, for instance. Immunizations are a big thing right now. If for some reason you absolutely cannot get a shot, you absolutely cannot get your records, and you can't get into the health center in time, that first week of January, contact health compliance and say, here's what I'm struggling with. And they, again, may temporarily remove that hold so that you can register and then put it back on again until you get those immunizations taken care of. Next slide. Review your insurance policy. I know this is super boring and it's super difficult. I look at insurance policies all the time, and it's not my favorite thing to do, I have to admit. But it is really important. It's important to know what it is you're buying. So you can't just assume that, you know, the cheap insurance policy that you got online is going to be exactly the same as your FSU policy. It is not. And you're going to want to see what healthcare costs you're going to have to pay for out of pocket. That's important too if you're an athlete. I'll talk to athletes in a second, but athletes will have a lot of their injuries and illnesses related to their sport taken care of. But if they're injured outside of their sporting events, they should know too how to deal with insurance. It's complicated, and you kind of want to know how to maneuver it in advance before anything happens. So for the FSU plan, you'll go to United Healthcare Student Resources. That's what that stands for, uhcsr.com/FSU. And that goes directly to FSU's policy. And then there you want to look specifically for the international plan. The international plan is actually better than the domestic plan because there are certain state regulations in place that make the co-insurance a little bit better for you. So that's a good thing. If you are purchasing some other type of insurance policy that meets those state regulations, there should be a little icon on their page somewhere that looks like this view brochure, and you will click on the PDF, open that up, and that will give you the same type of information. The things you want to look for are you eligible for the coverage? As an enrolled student, you probably will be, but keep in mind that some of those policies say you're only eligible when you're enrolled in classes. So if it says you're not eligible for coverage if you're not enrolled in classes, that means that when you're on a break sometime, you may not have coverage for an injury or illness. You want to double check with that insurance company. What does this mean to me? You know, am I going to be able to go on a skiing vacation during my winter break? And if I do get injured, will that be covered? Those types of things. You want to look at the limits on coverage. Sometimes they'll say we only cover $500 of an ambulance. Well, ambulances cost more than that, a lot more than that. So those are things you want to keep in mind. Exclusions as well, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and what your provider network looks like in Tallahassee if you have the providers that you will need. Next. In-network out and versus out-of-network is a weird concept, and it's basically born out of the fact that the US has no organized healthcare system, essentially. There is no one controlling costs. There is no government agency that looks at what is fair to pay. You know, of course, they look at sanitation and whether everyone is certified to do what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not looking at costs. So the insurance companies do that. The insurance companies try to keep costs down by going out and contracting with each and every provider, literally. So the lab where you get your blood work done, the x-ray technicians, the doctor, the hospital, the urgent care, et cetera, they're going to each and every one of those and saying, hey, this is what we pay for this type of condition. Will you accept that? And it's a huge list, and that provider has to say, yes, I'll accept that payment, that level of payment for each and every one of those things. And then they become in-network. If that provider says, nope, I'm the only dermatologist in Tallahassee, I can charge whatever I want and get it, they become out of network. Out of network providers can literally charge whatever they want. They can charge a different rate today than they do tomorrow because they don't like working on Fridays. They can charge people with insurance differently than they charge people without insurance, et cetera. So you want to try to stay in network as much as possible to control those costs for yourself, for the insurance company, and for the group of insured students. And that's essentially how it works. All of you insured students are paying into a group of insured students. That money, 80% of it goes back out to healthcare. Again, there's no government support for healthcare, so 80% of what you're paying in is going back out to pay for your or someone else's healthcare needs. And then 20% the company keeps to pay for their buildings, their computers, their paper, their personnel. So that's really what the split is. They're not trying to cheat you by, you know, charging $2,500. It's just that that's how much it's going to cost to do that 80-20 split. So this is why we have the network. This is why you want to stay in the network. And this is why you want to know what your network is. And I'll talk about that in just a second. Some more terminology as you're looking through your brochure is that the premium is, again, the amount that you're paying to be part of that insured group. Like as if you were joining a student club and they said, hey, everybody pays $20 to be part of this student club. And then we're all going to get t-shirts and pay for pizza and soda at parties. So you're paying into it, and then everyone benefits from that payment. For the FSU coverage, well, for any coverage, I'm sorry, you will pay for either the entire year, or like now, you pay for spring, summer, and then you'll pay again for fall. Once fall rolls around, you can choose the annual coverage at that time as well. But right now you have spring, summer coverage. Summer cannot be split off. You must be enrolled in insurance coverage in the summer. If you happen to graduate in the spring, the FSU coverage will cover you all the way through the summer, which is a good thing. That will get you through your 60-day grace period where maybe you're doing something fun. It will get you through a gap in coverage between ending your studies and starting a job. So that's a good thing. Outside insurance companies will, again, in many cases, not cover you when you're not enrolled in classes. So your option there is to go back to the insurance company and say, I graduated in spring, here's my proof, please refund my summer portion, and they will do that. We can talk about that later. This is just to let you know when this comes up. If you have questions, let us know. We'll try to guide you on that. Do keep in mind that the premiums will change in August. Sorry, can you go back one? Thanks. Premiums will change in August because the insurance company is going to look at the entire usage for this academic year, what we have so far anyway, and then they're going to set the prices for next year based upon that. So premiums may go up some, at least 10% in August of each year. So if you were to pay a premium that covered 100% of everything, it would be extremely costly. One estimate we have is $4,500 a month if every person was enrolled at 100% for everything. Obviously, none of us can afford that. Literally, none of us can afford that. So what the insurance companies do is they will try to control those costs that are coming in each year by passing more along to people who need more services. So it's a little bit fairer to you if you're just that student who goes once a year and sees a doctor to make sure you're well. Whereas people who are in the hospital with a serious illness are paying a little bit more for that serious illness, but at least they have coverage for it. So the way they do this is copays. Copays are great. We like copays. This means that you're going into a doctor and you're paying $50 to see that doctor, and that's it. You don't pay anything else. So copays are great. We like those. Deductibles are the first amount of a big healthcare cost. So let's say you end up in the hospital and you're there for 10 days, you're going to pay $500 of that first part of your medical bills. And then the insurance company will take over and pay the majority of the remainder. The co-insurance is a percentage that you will pay on that remainder. And I'll go over an example in a minute. Exclusions. Exclusions are a big thing to watch out for with insurance companies, with insurance plans. Just about every plan in the US is going to exclude routine eye care. So I wear contacts. I do not have insurance for that. I just pay out of pocket. And if you did have insurance for that or for dental care, it would really just be a prepaid system where you're paying every month the same amount you would pay if you were going for services. So you can certainly do that. Just keep in mind it's not going to be cheap, really. It's not going to save you a lot of money, but it spreads out your payments a little bit. Like I said, dental work is the same type of arrangement. If you have a sore tooth, a broken tooth, you need a root canal, you need a filling, those types of things are not covered by health insurance. For some reason, US health insurance doesn't think teeth and eyes are a medical condition unless you have an illness or an injury, you've fallen and broken your teeth. So those you'll pay for out of pocket. Dental work in the US is very expensive. If you do need dental work done, it's probably best to have it done in your home country if possible. Some other things that are excluded on all plans are car accidents. If you're involved in a car accident, you're going to get the insurance information for all drivers who are involved in that car accident. If you're a passenger in the car, get a copy of the driver's car insurance. If someone ran into you or the driver ran into someone else, get a copy of that other driver's insurance card as well. And then any healthcare needs that arise from that accident will go to the car insurance. If it ends up going to your health insurance is going to deny that claim because they're going to say it needs to go to the car insurance. So you want to have that information available so that the bills go directly to the car insurance. Work injuries, if you have an on-campus job and you hurt yourself, say you're working for campus dining and you burn yourself while working, that's going to be covered by workers' compensation insurance. And the same thing would happen. You get to the hospital, you emergency room, you deal with that burn and they say, oh, but this is work related. Your health insurance won't cover it. So do be sure that you're telling your supervisor at your workplace about those work injuries so that you can get routed to the right kind of coverage for those. This is true for athletes too. Athletes, if you're in an accident, if you're in a car accident, you need to know that as well. So keep this in mind. For low-cost insurance plans, as ones that you get online, not the FSU coverage, they are low cost because they reduce the amount that they're paying for. That's really the only way they can do it. So they're not trying to cheat you out of anything. They just, they have a healthy 20-year-old and they figure, well, hopefully you're going to stay safe and well, and we won't have to pay very much out, and we can stay within that 80-20 split. So the way they do that is they will exclude things like pre-existing conditions. If you're a 20-year-old who has high blood pressure or seizure disorder or diabetes, those types of things may not be covered. So you may want to seriously consider the FSU coverage. If you end up in the hospital, like I said, with like an upset stomach or some minor cold symptoms and you haven't been referred by a doctor, those hospital visits, those emergency room visits may not be covered at all for under a cheaper policy. They just exclude it altogether because that's the most expensive care you can get. Injuries from any sports, and with a lot of these plans, they really mean any sports. Like you were playing soccer in your backyard with your friends and you broke your ankle, and they'll count that and say, we don't cover sports injuries, sorry. So keep that in mind if that's something you like to do. Injuries while consuming alcohol, and this doesn't mean something that happened because you were consuming alcohol in many cases. They'll just say, if you had a glass of wine when you tripped over a curb and broke your ankle, we won't cover it. So keep that in mind as well. Injuries from riding a scooter, I mentioned because we have had at least a couple of students get in very serious scooter accidents. Those were very, very costly accidents. And this is why those aren't covered by those cheaper insurance policies. They just won't cover it at all. Next. So here's just a real world example. A student, it gets really hot and humid in the summer. People forget to drink enough water. Student collapsed from overheating, was taken in an ambulance to the emergency room because, they didn't know why she collapsed. So good call. You should go to the emergency room if you pass out and you don't know why. But here's just a brief overview of what that bill might look like. So $1,200 is pretty average for an ambulance, maybe more. Emergency room services are the people who schedule the room for you to go to, call the doctor who's going to see you, schedule the x-ray technician, schedule your blood work, just those services, $500 because they're doing it quickly and they're trying to get you through. doctor's visit just for the doctor to come in and say, oh, well, we did all the tests and turns out you just need to drink more water. That's $500. CT scan, x-ray to make sure you don't have an aneurysm or some serious issue. Blood test, $200. So let's say your total bill is $4,000. You would pay $500 as a deductible. That's that first amount of the medical bill. That's your responsibility. You would pay a $350 copay because they did not admit you to the hospital. So I would say 95% of the time, you're not going to be admitted to the hospital when you're in the emergency room. So you will pay this $350 copay. And then 20% of the remaining cost. So that's going to be around half of the bill, not quite, a third of the bill. Sorry about that, math's not my forte. So a third of the bill. So this is just to show you that insurance is a discount on what you would pay. It's not going to wipe out your bills entirely. It's not going to cover anything at 100% unless your benefits show 100% immunizations at the health center, like I mentioned earlier. So that's why you want to know these things in advance. And then if you were in California and the ambulance took you to whatever the closest hospital was, it happens to be out of network. Let's say the bill is still $4,000, may not be, it may be significantly more. You would pay a $1,000 deductible, you would pay your $350 copay, and you would pay 30% of the remaining costs. So again, this is to keep you in network, to keep you in those places where it's going to be cheaper for you and the insurance company. So you're going to pay more than half of that bill on your own if you're out of network. Obviously, get the care you need in an emergency situation. You know, if you're able to communicate with an ambulance driver and say, hey, I know what the hospital is here in California, please take me there. That's great, but you know, get the care that you need and then worry about the bills at a later time. Then just a couple of examples that actually have happened on our campus. Undergraduate student fell down, broke her arm over at the law school as she was going between classes. She had to have 6 months of physical therapy. They were threatening surgery. So her total bill before the insurance started paying, was $20,000. So most of that was covered by the FSU insurance policy. She was very happy she had the FSU insurance policy. But it was a pretty large bill for a pretty minor seeming accident. Then another undergraduate student had severe stomach pain, went to the emergency room, ended up having to have surgery, emergency surgery. His bill was over $45,000. So this is just to kind of emphasize, this is why you have insurance for these types of things. You may think you're perfectly healthy and you're never going to use the insurance in the US, but this is why you have it. Again, these were undergrad, healthy, young people, so they thought, and they still had to have some pretty serious medical coverage in place. So to identify your in-network providers, whether you're here in California, traveling with your team, et cetera, for the FSU plan, you would go to the same website, uhcsr.com/FSU, and you'll look for medical providers in your area. You just put in your zip code, you look for the type of provider you need, and they'll give you a list. And you can go to whoever's closest, whatever name you like best, whoever's been recommended by your primary care physician, whatever the case may be, it's up to you. If you have another type of insurance policy that you bought online, a lot of the common networks are MyFirstHealth and MultiPlan. Those are used quite often, and they have fairly extensive coverage in our area. But again, you want to review these in advance and see, you know, I might need to see a neurologist at some time during my stay. Is there a neurologist who's in network in Tallahassee in my network? So check on that in advance. The other thing you want to do, like Quinn mentioned, is go ahead and print out your insurance card. Have a paper copy with you. And that is, again, just for an emergency situation. You end up in an ambulance and going to the hospital, they're going to try to look for that insurance card, or you're going to want to be able to pull it quickly from your wallet if you're conscious. And you want to do that because the bills will then go to your insurance company. They won't go to you directly. You want to avoid those bills going to you and having to negotiate claims. That is a possibility, but it's a big pain, trust me. So have that insurance card with you. Be sure that all the providers involved have it when you get your services. If you have a scheduled appointment with a doctor, with a lab, with an x-ray technician, with MRI, you want to bring your insurance card with you to that appointment, and you want to have photo identification with you as well. And the reason for that is, you know, they don't want me using your insurance. So they want to be sure that the person they are serving at that time is the person who's insured. So that's why you want to bring that with you. Again, when you're going to the health center, have your FSU card with you as well, in addition to insurance if you're not insured by the FSU policy. You may want to save a little bit for healthcare costs, just for those little co-pays here and there, just in case you need it. If you don't end up using it, then, you know, nice vacation money for later. Again, the bills will go to you directly if you don't have your insurance card. If that happens, then you will file a claim, and you want to be sure you know what that claim period is, how quickly you need to have your bills. You want to follow up with the provider as soon as possible and say, hey, who is your billing person? How do I get in touch with them? How can I get my bill now? Because I need to file a claim. There are usually very strict windows for filing those claims, usually within 90 days of the service. And sometimes you don't get those bills within the 90 days. So it again, is a huge pain if you're not getting those bills sent directly to the insurance company. If your bills have gone to the insurance company and the insurance company has paid their part, and then you get a $2,000 bill in the mail that's your responsibility, that's pretty reasonable for an emergency room visit of pretty much any kind. If you have paid your deductible and your copay, the remaining amount of that bill might be negotiated down by the providers. So in that case, you just call up and you say, hey, I'm a poor student. I don't have any income. I can't afford this bill. I've paid my deductible. I've paid my copay. Is there any way you can waive the remainder? Or is there any way you can reduce the remainder? And in a lot of cases, they will, because they've already got some money from the insurance company. It's unlikely that you'll be able to pay them anytime soon. So they will go ahead and reduce it for you in many cases. You just have to call and ask. Keep all of your bills as well. Keep all of your payment stubs. Keep everything that shows what you've been billed and what you've paid out, because sometimes it gets confused. You know, I had all of my bills for an emergency room visit sent to my insurer, and then I still got bills from the hospital and the x-ray technicians, et cetera. So I had to go back and say, this has already been done. Here's my insurance. So just, you know, if you keep getting bills, don't assume that they are correct. Go ahead and check. Go ahead and say, nope, this has already been paid for. Go ahead and dispute bills. Because again, we don't have an organized healthcare system, unfortunately. Next. So insurance for spring, summer. Hopefully most of you have already taken care of this, but maybe not. So the way that you're going to take care of it is the athletes are going to talk to athletics directly. Athletics takes care of most of your insurance issues in most cases, but talk to them first if you're an athlete. If you're an FSU athlete, you've gotten an athletic scholarship, there's a contact in athletics specifically for insurance, and he can guide you through whatever else you may need to do, how to get an insurance card that you can have with you, like we talked about, and what may or may not be covered by that insurance. I'm not the expert on that. I don't have a lot of information about that. Nick Pappas, I think, still is the contact on that, and he is your expert, so go to him. Ask all these questions about everything we talked about, just so that you know. Everyone else who is not an athlete, you're going to enroll for your spring summer coverage at studentinsurance.fsu.edu. At that studentinsurance.fsu.edu, you'll have two options, one for immunizations, one for insurance. I don't know why they're on that page. They're both on that page. When you go to the insurance one, it's going to say, I want to purchase insurance, or I already have insurance. So if you want to purchase the FSU insurance, you're going to click on there. You're going to log in with your FSU ID and password, and you're going to purchase the spring summer coverage. That's all that's available right now. You can't purchase fall right now. We don't have a plan for fall yet. And then if you have purchased a policy from another online provider, not an FSU provider, that's when you go to the I already have insurance and you'll complete the waiver. But be sure that you have all of your insurance details with you when you're doing that waiver. It's going to ask for your policy number, the name of the insurance provider, the dates of coverage, and you want to be sure that that coverage is from January 1st through August 14th. It's spring summer coverage. So that's a requirement for everyone who is in F1, F2, J1, J2 status and is enrolling in a state university system school in Florida. It doesn't matter where you are. So if you're a transfer student and you're going to continue to enroll from Alabama, you still have to have this Florida insurance. You still have to meet the state regulation because you're enrolling in classes in Florida. Then next step, after you've taken care of spring, summer, is fall. So I know it seems really early to worry about this, but every March when fall registration opens again, we inevitably have students who contact us and say, I've already taken care of insurance. I've already paid for it. It's already done. Why do I have this hold on my account? And that's for the fall coverage. So by mid-March, you're going to be registering, enrolling for insurance again for your fall coverage or your annual coverage. Be sure that you have paid for your spring summer coverage by that mid-March registration deadline. Otherwise, you're going to have a hold on your account for past due charges. So you won't be able to move forward until you've paid for spring, summer, and until you have registered for your fall insurance coverage. And just keep in mind our plan changes around that time, like February, we'll have a new policy. And then you should be able to enroll in that coverage by no later than mid-March. So keep that in mind for the future. Undergrads usually don't have dependents. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but there are some options right now for 2021. The option would be the FSU coverage, essentially. So you can enroll your dependents in the FSU coverage at the same time you're enrolling yourself. It's the same price that you would pay, which is good. Sometimes it's more expensive for dependents. And you want to do that at the same time, because if you wait until later to enroll a child, for instance, any bills that you've accrued through that time are going to be your responsibility, and you're going to pay exactly the same amount for the insurance. So I don't advise you wait on that. Next. Update your local mailing address for many, many reasons. One is we need to register your CVIS records. So when you do get to Tallahassee or know your local address, know what your local address is going to be, go ahead and enter it at my.fsu.edu under mail, under your mail address. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the one we have to use. So go to your mail address and enter your Tallahassee address. If you're a transfer student and you're going to remain, in another state in the US, go ahead and put that address, even though it says mail or local. So we need to have that for our purposes. And then if a police officer needs to check on you because people haven't heard from you for a while, they're worried about you, you had some COVID-19 symptoms and people want someone to check on you, the police need to have an address to go to knock on your door and check on you. So be sure that is in my.fsu.edu, and then they won't have any problems trying to chase down where you're located. And then on that note, any students who are living in on-campus housing must be tested for COVID-19 at our facility, at the FSU COVID-19 testing facility before move-in. So just keep that in mind. Oh, I forgot to change this date, sorry. So we do have testing dates pretty much every day, except the holidays. Bring a photo ID with you. If you have your FSU ID, you can bring that. Otherwise, bring a passport, and do register in advance for that. It's just better. You might be able to walk up, like Krista mentioned, but it's better if you go ahead and register for an appointment in advance. There are other free testing sites in the community for people who are not going to be in on-campus housing. So if you just want to double check, oh, I'm having a little bit of a cold, I think it's just a cold, you can go and test at any of those free sites just to be on the safe side. There's a whole list online of ones that are available to you. Oh, and I forgot to take this out too, sorry about that. So students who are traveling from outside the US, we no longer have a quarantine period because the US is not doing great, but we do suggest that you stay at home for your first 7 to 10 days after arrival just to monitor symptoms. So try to arrive 7 to 10 days before that in-person January 19th date, and try to stay at home to monitor anything that might come up.
Yeah, just an update on that, Tanya, is the director of the health center said that she is going to talk to HR because the website, they have not changed where it has the 14 days, but she did think that they were going to go with the CDC guidelines that talk about international travel if you had high-risk travel to do that 7 to 10 days that you talked about. So if you do have questions, pay attention to the FSU websites. They're going to be possibly updating the requirements that have confused us a bit.
That's just good advice all around. Double check everything. Things are changing daily. So, keep up to date with alerts.fsu.edu, keep up with healthcenter.fsu.edu, where they do have COVID testing information and quarantine information. Doesn't hurt to check frequently. That's it for me. I'll turn it over to Jared. Thanks.
Alrighty, everyone. How you doing today? I'm Jared. I'm one of the F1 advisors. If you're at the end of the alphabet, then I am your F1 advisor. So nice to meet you all. Nice to see you all here today. And today I'm going to be talking about FSU academic resources and success. Okay, so this came up in the chat we had before the orientation started. Registration. That's kind of something that's on everybody's mind right now. Undergraduate students, you register for your courses in the undergraduate orientation. And if you haven't already registered for your undergraduate orientation, we have the contact information there. The date that one of the things that came up in our chat was you might be enrolled in one course right now, but you don't have the rest of your course filled out yet. The reason for this, that as we were talking about, it seems like that is to keep you from reaching the registration sorry, I can't talk today. From getting the registration late fee. You need to have one course on your schedule by January 5th to avoid that late registration fee. So if you don't already have a course on your schedule, work on getting that done, because by the time you talk to your academic advisors and add the rest of those courses, it'll be after the start of, after the deadline. So make sure you have that taken care of. Then the drop add period will be between January 6th and January 11th. So again, I'll just say it one more time, make sure you have one course on your schedule before January 5th at midnight going into January 6th. Another thing that's important is that you must attend the first meeting of each of your class, or you may lose your place in that class. So that's really important, especially for most of you who will be required to have an in-person class. Make sure you're checking into that in-person class, although it will be online for that first meeting, because we're not moving to in-person until after the Martin Luther King holidays. So just make sure that you're doing what you need to do in terms of being in attendance that first day. Okay, and fees and tuitions. The transfer wire website can be found on that link. The Student Business Services office is where you handle your tuition payments. They're located over at the football stadium in University Center A, which is UCA 1500 is their office. For those of you who are doing third-party billing through your government or an international organization or something like that, the agency billing is due on the 5th day of classes, and for that, it's January 12th. So if you haven't already started working on that, you'll want to get in touch with Student Business Services about that. And then the regular payment deadline is January 15th at 11:59 p.m. It came up also about payment plans. For those of you who think you might not be able to pay the full tuition payment at once, you would want to get in touch with that office about setting up a payment plan for that. Okay. They're no longer accepting cash as a payment for in the Students Business Services office. If you think that's something that applies to you, you'll let us know and we can redirect you to the appropriate contacts over in that office. Payment by electronic check does not carry any additional service fees, so that's great. It's pretty easy and it's a smooth transaction there. And then Student Business Services also encourages their drop-off location, which is located between towers A1 and A2. Again, this is on the east side of the football stadium to deposit forms, documents, payments by check or money order. This is to reduce, that in-person contact. That's, social distancing measures, things of that nature. Okay, so classroom culture in the US, normally when we're talking about this, we talk about, class sizes ranging from 10 to 200. Keep in mind, social distancing, again, you're not going to be crowded in a room like you can see on the background of this picture where everybody's, right up next to each other. They're taking those things into account. Big classrooms are trying to work on getting that spacing that we need. So yes, although classroom sizes do vary from 10 to 200, you're not going to be crammed in a room like this that you see here with 200 people right now. That'll probably come later in your time here, if at all. The syllabus, for those of you who aren't aware, the syllabus is your greatest resource for every single one of your classes. What happens is at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of the course, your professor will give you a syllabus which sort of outlines the entirety of that course, the schedule, what you're going to be graded on, the assignments, when the assignments are due, what you're going to be reading that week. Professors do a great job of outlining this information at the beginning for you so that if you ever aren't sure of what's happening next, that you can easily refer back to your syllabus. And if you're already enrolled in some classes, you may be able to already access some of the syllabus for syllabi for your classes by going into Canvas, canvas.fsu.edu. If not, you'll be getting it at the beginning of the term. And you may be able to reach out to your professors as well ahead of time to let them know that you want to get a head start and see what you're going to be doing that semester. They may be able to get it to you. Teaching style. So here in the US, we love student-centered learning. In some places, it's a instructor-centered learning where the instructor's pretty much talking at you. We try to do it the opposite way, where students are engaged, having conversations, debates, interactions, things of that nature, and really contributing to the outcomes of the class itself, and having those conversations. So presentations, participation, group work are very common. So that's something that can be expected of you as well in your time here. Okay, and religious holidays. For those of you who in the spring 2021 semester know that a religious holiday is coming up for you and that would cause you to miss a course or miss some time, go ahead and reach out to your professor ahead of time and let them know. They will honor your request to observe that holiday. They say to reach out to them at least 2 weeks in advance to let them know. But if you already know it's coming up, I say just go ahead and let them know, you know, at the beginning of the course, to say, hey, this time I have this religious holiday coming up, and to be excused for that, and they will approve that for you. Just let them know plenty of time in advance. Okay, academic integrity and plagiarism. Some of the academic honor policy things that we have here at FSU. So in violations of the academic honor policy include plagiarism, cheating, unauthorized group work, where maybe the professor said you had to work on something individually and you work together on it. That could be considered unauthorized group work. Fabrication, falsification, and misrepresentation. So, you know, presenting things that figures, pulling information that isn't true or are not factual, or using somebody else's work in an unauthorized manner. Multiple submissions. That what that means is if you write a really good paper for your geography class and then you have a history class and you're kind of covering the same topic, you cannot then use that exact same paper for the new class. You can't use the same paper for multiple submissions. That's considered a violation. You have to do original work each time. Abuse of academic materials, complicity in academic dishonesty, cheating, things of that nature, or in any of these. It's not limited to just these. These are just some of the ones that come up. Okay, and plagiarism is a big deal. FSU defines it as presenting the work of another as one's own, i.e. without proper acknowledgement of the source. So I always tell people, my favorite example is to say, if you are writing a paper and you write in there that the population of Russia is 144 million people, you did not actually go to Russia and count every single person, so you need to cite that. Anytime you're pulling from other sources, cite. Just cite as you write is what I always say. Using another work from print, web, or other resources without acknowledging the source, quoting from a source without citation, and graphs as well. Graphs, figures, charts, information without acknowledgement of the source and where you're pulling it from. That can all be determined as plagiarism. Okay. Cite as you write, yep. And be familiar with the citation styles. Now, this is something that will come up in your syllabus as well. The instructors are usually pretty clear about which type of citation style they want you to use, whether it be APA or MLA. That's something that I always saw in the syllabi that I looked at for courses. So check with them if you're not sure. There is a system that we have that can verify original content in your work. It's called Turnitin. So when you submit something, it's actually a program that will sort of crunch everything you wrote or everything you submitted and be able to tell with a percentage how original the content of that work is. So it's something that they will check on and be able to see. And violations of this policy, and especially plagiarism, does have consequences academically, and of course, if you go out of status academically, that can have some significant impacts on your immigration status as well. Okay, so library resources, we have a good reading and writing center here at FSU. Individual instruction and composition, reading through one-on-one tutoring, small group workshops. You can set up an appointment with them. They are reopening on January 13th. So that second week of classes, you'll be able to get back in there and utilize that as a resource. And tutoring, we do have tutoring resources over there as well, conducted on Zoom, and that link there will provide you for that as well. Okay, and also for undergraduates, we have something called the Academic Center for Excellence, and they help undergraduate students develop study skills and habits for personal success. So if you are having trouble just adjusting to your coursework, your schedule, you can reach out to them, and they'll get you set up with, tips and tricks to help you get through it. It's always a lot when you're taking on these new things, and they help with that transition. FSU libraries in general is a really great place to assist you with your research. And a lot of times when you're doing projects or writing papers, you might have trouble accessing a document or a scholarly article, for example, that you need to use to help with your research. If you have any trouble accessing any of that sort of stuff, resources that you need, definitely reach out to them. They will be able to get that article or that book or whatever it is for you. They're really good in that way of hunting down the information that you need to be able to be successful in your work. Okay, and the Career Center. So I'm sure a lot of you will probably want to utilize OPT at the end of your F1 academic program here at FSU. So you can start utilizing Career Center resources. Even if you plan on going back home afterwards, you can still utilize these resources. The Career Center here is great. They offer career advising. There's internship services, Intern FSU, that you can reach out about. They do resume reviews, cover letters. They do mock interviews, and they'll actually record you. So you can come in there and you can be recorded giving a mock interview with them, and then you can go back and look not just at your responses, but things like body language and everything else that you're sort of giving off in that interview. So great resource as well. Career fair events. I'll be talking about one in just a second. There's a part-time on-campus employment career event coming up that I'll mention in just a second. So keep an eye on those things. They have newsletters and they always have announcements. So keep an eye on those things. There's always stuff going on with the Career Center that's really helpful. They won't be able to answer questions that are immigration related though. So things like CPT, OPT, your ability to work while you're here in the US, that's stuff that you want to make sure you reach out to us about, especially before you start working, just to make sure that we have everything in order for you. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So the Career Center launched this new network. It's called the Knoll Network, and this is kind of, I think it's came out within the last year. And so this is where you would go to look for jobs right now. And they pull from both on campus and off campus. So for most of you, you're only going to be eligible initially for 20 hours a week of on-campus work. So you would want to make sure that the options that you're looking at are just on campus. The Knoll Network, that's the tricky part about Knoll Network, is that sometimes it doesn't always tell you what's off campus and what's on campus. So you want to make sure, but they are putting both in that same system. They do have this part-time job fair coming up in spring, so there should be some on-campus opportunities that they present there. That's January 14th, and that's going to be through the Knoll Network. So get registered, get signed up, start practicing using Knoll Network. That's something that you'll want to keep an eye on certainly throughout your time here. And again, be mindful of your employment and eligibility as an F1 student. Know what you're eligible for, and if you're not sure, you can always reach out to us and we'll clear that up for you. Okay, and funding opportunities, other funding opportunities that are out there and available. A couple things. We at the CGE are fortunate enough to be able to have undergraduate out-of-state waivers that we issue. each semester to our students. You have to have completed one full-time semester at FSU to be eligible. And if you, and one of the other things, if you're getting the full, I know we have a lot of Panama people in here, so if you already have the full 2+2 scholarship, then you would not be eligible for our out-of-state waivers. So definitely review that information, keep an eye on it. If you're doing well, if you're keeping that GPA high, definitely apply. The Linkage Institute's waivers, that's something, there's various organizations throughout Florida, and if you are a citizen of one of the countries that qualifies, they do provide out-of-state exemptions. We also have the Southern Scholarship Foundation as well. All of in general, our funding opportunities are on that website at the bottom. Browse through it, see what's out there. Most of the time when students ask me about funding opportunities that are available, it'll usually be something that we already have posted on our website. So keep that, save that link as well. Okay, and for transfer students, because I know we have a couple of you, there are specific resources available for transfer students, and you can get those, you can reach out, transferstudents.fsu.edu. Okay, and just to touch on some more COVID information, wearing masks is expected of you, buildings, classrooms throughout being on campus. Spring break was canceled this year. Classes are going to be ending 1 week early, Friday, April 16th, but that does not mean you'll be finished for the semester. You'll certainly still have things to wrap up with your courses, whether it be exams, tests, papers, things of that nature, until the semester officially ends on April 24th. That's the official end of the semester. And Laura had already mentioned this to you much earlier, but definitely stay connected especially for those of you who may not be on campus as much. Virtual FSU is a great place to do that. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. We have been together for about a little over 2 hours, and we keep the immigration such an important topic towards the end so that we can keep your attention. So yeah, we can move and stretch a little bit, but please follow me so that we can learn how to maintain your immigration status. Yeah, I'm Betty Jensen, one of the immigration advisors. We go by alphabet. So I handle the A through H range of the alphabet. My colleague, Angelique Stevens, handles I through O. She will be coming back after a leave of absence on January 4th. You heard my colleague, Jared. He handles P through Z. You all know Mr. O'Brien Quinn. He's famous. He did your I-20s. And Tanya Khalif, it's our immigration associate who greets you when we are in the office. You see the first friendly face there. Right now, we all are working through Zoom. So you can make an appointment anytime to see us, anytime between 2 and 4 every single day. The Zoom advising link is on the front page of our website, cge.fsu.edu, which is a wonderful website full of important information. And I can't tell you enough how much you need to get familiar with that website. We do all kinds of services. We offer lots of services besides being you guys' main advocate for things that happen to you regarding anything at the university. We offer workshops on employment, all kinds of different workshops. Stay tuned. We update your I-20. We do everything that relates to the F1 regulations and help you maintain status. All the forms are on that wonderful website. Again, you just have to go to the website, international students, on the upper right-hand corner under forms, you have a multitude of forms. You all heard Kristen Hagen. She's a wonderful associate director. We're all here to help you succeed. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to talk about the basics for enrollment, and this is very important, okay? You're all undergrads, I believe. We might have a grad student, I'm not sure. But all of you know that in order to comply with the immigration regulations, you must be enrolled in 12 credit hours and at least one in-person class if you are in the US, okay? All in-person meetings are required. At least 12 credit hours, again, for a CVAS transfer. Okay, in the fall and spring, again, as I said, 12 hours. 9 hours must be in person. Now, this is during non-COVID, but this is the way that the regulation states. For the summer, you have an annual break. You may or may not attend the summer semester because you're not required by immigration to attend the summer session. Some students do attend to kind of, stay and try to get ahead. However, if you are on a scholarship or, check with your department, sometimes they have their own regulations, but as long as immigration is concerned, you can take a break during the summer. When you get ready to graduate in your final term, you do not have to be enrolled in 12 hours. So you only take what you need, and can be exclusively online. So let us know when this is your last semester, there's a form you need to give us, etc. But just so that you know, the final term, you don't have to enroll in hours that you do not need, okay? Now, your scholarship might require you to enroll for more credit hours than the minimum listed. So again, be sure you know your expectations for the summer. Always reach us and be in touch with your department. Okay, there are sometimes situations that happen that you need to ask us for a reduced course load approval. And this happened during two circumstances, related to academic and related to medical. The ones related to academic, it's because of difficulties that you may have your very first semester at FSU. Most of you are transfer students, but reach us if you have any questions there. Familiarity with US teaching methods, improper course level placement. Okay, all of these are reasons that perhaps we could reduce your course load, but it's only allowed one time. Okay, but reasons like, oh, I don't really like my professor, or I don't really like the class, or, I'm getting a bad grade, so I want to drop. That's not possible, okay? And if we do it, must still have minimum of 6 hours, okay? The next category is medical, and this could happen anytime. We all believe that, we need to stay healthy, and sometimes things happen that get in the way of our continuing all our full load. But in this case, if this has happened, you had to have been seen by a physician. So we would need to have the letter from the licensed MD, DO, or clinical psychologist. And this letter has to be very specific as to what is going on, and that he or she, the physician, recommends that you take less than your 12 hours or no hours, but he or she will need to specify that in the letter, okay? This approval is limited to 12 months per level and is authorized one semester at a time, okay? And of course, it has to be authorized in advance, okay? We're full of forms to make sure that we keep everything in writing. So please reach your F1 advisor. Okay, now we're going to talk about travel. We all want to go in and out of the country, so we'll tell you the basics. Okay, there are basically several documents that you need to be familiar with. You probably are familiar with. You have a passport, correct? You know what a passport is, and we need to make sure the passport is valid at all times while you're in the US and at least 6 months into future at time of US entry. So please keep up with when your passport expires. Okay, the extensions to renew your passport could be obtained from the citizenships embassy consulate while you're in the US. Okay, now the visa is a different document. The visa is an entry document, and you get the visa when you go to the embassy. Most of you have already gotten your visa. And when you enter the US, and you've of course gotten your visa abroad, yeah, and when you enter the US, they will stamp your passport. This is already stamping your passport, and they will stamp it that you're entering the country, thus activating your F1 status, okay? Must only be valid at the time of entry to the US. And we'll talk a little bit later. This visa could expire while you're in the US. You know, but then when you leave and come back, then it has to be valid. Yeah. Okay, we have also another very, very important document to keep in mind, and that's your I-94. Once you've entered the US, you will have generated an electronic record, which you will later have to download and print. The website is i94.cbp.dhs.gov. If you forget, we can remind you. This is a very, very important document that you need to keep in your permanent record file. This gives you evidence of legal entry to the US, and you will need it for driver's license, for employment, for opening a bank account, and all kinds of things, okay? A travel signature is required when you leave the US to go home for the holidays, or maybe you want to go to Canada or Mexico or somewhere. Hopefully, we will not continue with the difficulties that COVID has given us, and we would want to travel. I'm missing traveling quite a bit. Okay, so what you would do is you request from us that we sign the second page of your I-20 so that we give you the permission to go out of the country. Okay, so you will contact us, and with the appropriate form, we will sign the second page of your I-20. Right now, all of that is done electronically, approved by USCIS. This signature is valid for 1 year, okay? So if you leave within 6 months of that signature, you don't really need another signature, or you will have lots and lots of signatures on the second page of the I-20, okay? Okay, now let's talk about the basics for employment. Jared touched a little bit of these issues, but we'll talk about the basics. Okay, there are basically two types of employment, okay? On campus and off campus, it makes sense. But please know that you do not need any permission from us to work on campus. That's kind of neat. You don't even need to tell us. Okay, that is between you and the department or the business that is providing services to FSU students on campus. Okay? You could work part-time only, fall and spring. That means 20 hours a week or less, right? Not 21, but 20. It could be 10, 11, 12, but not 21. Okay, for several employers, in case you get employment in 2 different places, all of which has to total 20 hours per week. Okay. In the summer, you can work a little more. You can work full time in the summer. So that's kind of neat, but you know, you need to be careful if you happen to decide or happen to have to attend summer session that you are able to balance your work and your school. Okay, the off-campus is a completely different situation. You cannot step off campus to work without approval, okay? It is restricted to approval and it must be authorized in advance, okay? This usually will come for you since you're not getting ready to graduate with another opportunity comes to play. While you're currently enrolled, you might want to do internships. You know, Jared mentioned the Career Center is very helpful in you know, giving you information about internships and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This we call, or immigration calls it, curricular practical training. It could be a paid internship, it could be an unpaid internship, but you must fill the forms and get approval from us, okay? Okay, there's a question about OPT authorization for summer internships. OPT comes close to graduation, so you wouldn't be doing OPT. Very, very rare. In this case, get in touch with your advisor. But OPT happens towards the end. Okay, employment will require that you have a social security number. Okay, if you have one that for some reason you've gotten before, if you're a transfer student, you do not need to get another one. A social security number is a number for life. Okay, you need to open a US bank account. And once you hired on campus, you will be directed to a Glacier, to make a Glacier account, which is a service that helps you with information about your taxes. And it's a service, again, that FSU and international students get while working at FSU. Authorization to work on campus will end, obviously, when you graduate. Any work done after graduation requires special permission, and that is OPT, which we, you know, will let us know, and we will let you know about OPT, which really, again, comes towards the end of your career as a bachelor student. Okay, so you just have to ask us. We are very, very available through email, Zooming every day from 2 to 4 again, so ask us. Okay, now the basics of SEVIS. SEVIS is that immigration database that allows us to issue and generate your I-20. It is an electronic record. And that is how, again, Quinn generated your original I-20. This SEVIS record, of course, has a number. That number shows in your I-20. Your I-20 also shows a program end date, which is giving us an estimate. Sometimes things don't happen exactly as we plan it, and you may have to have an extension, or you may graduate before the program end date. That happens a lot. Okay, regarding SEVIS, you have a lot of responsibilities. You are the main player in keeping your status valid, and we do everything we can to keep you in status, okay? Within 10 days of you moving away from your apartment, which will happen maybe more than once while you're in Tallahassee, you must address that change. You have to address that change of address in myfsu.edu. That is student central. So we don't need to get a paper. You don't need to tell us that you're changing an address. You need to go into my.fsu.edu and change your address there. And why don't you need to tell us? Because Student Central interfaces with our data management system, which then interfaces with CVAS. Okay, we do make sure that all that happens. And Ms. Tanya will be very, very happy with all of us and you if you do that within 10 days. She is our CVAS coordinator and making sure that we all just keep you, informed about all of these changes. Okay, your responsibility, as I mentioned earlier, is request employment authorization, except on campus, right? On campus, we don't have to know again. Okay, so if you might have to, for some reason, it usually doesn't happen with undergrads that they do go study abroad. Well, this is COVID time, this is completely different, but sometimes it happens with grad students that they have to continue doing research abroad. We need to know every time you leave the university for whatever reason, we need to know. I'm sure your academic department needs to know, but we definitely need to know. Okay, your responsibility, as I mentioned earlier, is to request for a reduced course load if you need one or believe you need one, and not just drop classes without you not telling us, because that is an immediate violation of your immigration rules. Okay, request for transfers when you're getting ready to transfer, etc. Okay, now you have responsibilities, okay? And we have responsibilities. So what are our responsibilities? If that system that I just mentioned that interfaces with us doesn't work well, we're constantly keeping that in line so that at all times the address that you enter on myfsu.edu is correct on your CVAS record. Your CVAS record has to have your correct physical address at all times, okay? Within 10 days of moving, we need to know because immigration needs to know where you are. Okay, we verify full-time enrollment within a few days after drop out. If you're not enrolled in a full load, we will be notified. We know. So, we make sure that if you're not, we get in touch with you and we wonder what is going on and make sure we straighten things out with you. That's not a problem. That's one of the things we do. We don't like to do things like terminate your record because you violated the rules, either enrolling in less than 12 hours, or you're taking more classes online, or you've gone off campus and haven't told us to seek employment, all those good things that we have to mention in this orientation that we know you're not going to do. We process the student requests by the, well, I can't say by the tons, I tend to exaggerate sometimes, but we are constantly processing. That is why we see students on, during Zoom advising for 2 hours and only via appointment outside that time range, because we are constantly processing information. We do process all kinds of different types of requests, CPT, OPT, we do the reduced course loads we mentioned, we transfer with, and there are actually a lot more situations that the common ones that are written here If you have dependents, we will issue the I-20. We do everything that we need to do with your I-20s. You change your majors, we have to keep you updated. We have to keep that updated. After you graduate, we will shorten the program end date upon graduation. And then depending on whether you do an OPT or not, we will do it accordingly. Okay, so now to the immigration regulations. I think all of you are going to do quite well. Most of you are transferring from Panama and are very well aware of the immigration rules. Okay, so we'll have fun now. You're not going to be graded, but this is a fun poll. Okay, this is similar to the one that you had with Ms. Hagan. Okay, I hope that all of you can see this quite well. Okay, so there are 6 questions. The first one is, which of the following documents can expire while you are in the US without causing you to violate the immigration regulations? So start answering the questions, start using your computer, and later we're going to share the answers. Okay, so start filling out your answers. Okay. Okay, the second question is, what must you do with your I-20 before traveling outside the US? I'm not seeing that you're entering the information. Oh yeah, yes. Okay, now I can see. Whoa, okay. What must you do with your I-20 before traveling outside of the US? Is the second one. A third one is, what is the maximum number of hours per week that you can work on campus during fall and spring? Whoa, you're doing very well on that one. Can you work off campus without prior authorization? Can you work off campus without prior authorization? Okay, how long must you be enrolled in classes full-time before you might be eligible for CPT or OPT? Okay, maybe that one I will have to explain a little more. And then the last one is, after moving to a new apartment, how many days do you have to update your address? I'm going to give you all a little time to answer the questions. If in case I rushed a little bit in reading them. Okay, I see you're doing quite well on that too. So in a few minutes, we're going to show you the answers, close the poll, and we'll go to the answers. Okay. Okay. So, Mr. Quinn, can we share the answers? Yeah, there they are. And then we can go to the poll, to the actual questions. We have 2 that almost got 100%. So I'm going to show you the answer here. I don't know if you're seeing that little black thing that I'm seeing, but the answer to number 1 is, which of the following documents can expire while you're in the US? And that definitely, as I said, is the F1 visa. Your I-20 cannot expire while you're in the US. But the visa I mentioned is an entry document. So it could expire while you're there, but your passport must be valid. Don't let your passport expire, okay? We mentioned 6 months, but it is, you know, very important. We've had so many stories about students having to leave on an emergency, and it was, you know, something that that in this situation that I'm thinking that a student couldn't leave because during COVID, passports are not being renewed at the time that we usually like to get them renewed. Okay. A visa is a travel document again. Okay. Expired passports also affects employment. So just so that I stress about the passport not expiring. What must you do with your I-20 before traveling outside? Get a travel signature on your I-20. I think I almost had 100% on that one. You must have a travel signature on the second page of your I-20, less than a year old on the day you re-enter the US. Okay, the answer to the maximum number of hours, I believe I did get 100% on that. It's definitely 20 hours to work on campus, as many, well, off campus if you have approval too. It's not as many as you want, etc., but it has to be 20 hours maximum on campus when classes are in session. Can you work off campus without prior approval? The answer is a big no. You cannot work off campus without having gotten the approval from your advisor and with your new I-20, which that is originated by doing and requesting a CPT. Okay. Working without authorization, as I mentioned again, I hate to keep pounding on it, is a violation, serious violation of F1 regulations. You must receive CPT approval before beginning to work or to do your internship, I should say. How long must you enroll in classes before you might be eligible for CPT or OPT? The answer is 2 semesters, fall and spring, 2 semesters in the US. COVID has given us all kinds of scenarios that we didn't have before, where students started out in their home country. That semester would not be counted to do OPT. You have to be with us 2 full semesters. Okay, you will not be able to apply for off-campus work starting before you have completed 2 semesters again, or if you are a transfer student from a previous school or degree level. Okay. After moving to a new apartment, how many days do you have to update your address? 10 days, right? I think everyone just got it correct, if I'm not mistaken. Again, update your US mailing field in Student Central, my.fsu.edu within 10 days. We will be very happy with all of that, especially Miss Tanya, because she keeps us in line. Okay. I believe that's the end of my presentation. Welcome to Florida State. We're so looking forward to having you on campus.
All right, thanks, Betty. Okay, everyone, so we have reached the end of our presentation. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We know there's a lot of information. As you can see, we did record this orientation. So what I will do once we log off of this orientation is send you an email. It'll include the PDF version of the slides. And then we are working on uploading this orientation recording to YouTube so that you can access it and review any parts that you felt like you needed a little bit more information on. It might end up, that recording might be sent to you either by tomorrow or by the start of January. So just be on the lookout for that. It will be in your email inbox. I just have a few other things I want to bring up to you all. There is an opportunity to win a $200 gift card raffle, courtesy from American Campus, which is an off-campus student housing company. And if you would like that chance to enter to win, there is a link and QR code that you can just access now. I'll also send it to the advisors to send in the Q&A breakout room chat, so you don't worry if you miss the opportunity right now. You will have to provide some contact information, and you can always opt out to receiving emails and texts from American Campus. So even if you enter in this time, you can opt out for messaging after the fact. All right. We also have an escape room for you all. For those of you that have not yet arrived on Tallahassee but want to kind of get familiar with campus and the different resources, I created one through Google Forms for you. It's fun, interactive. So again, here's the QR code and link, which will be sent through your Q&A breakout rooms as well. And finally, did want to bring up that we really appreciate and value your feedback on this orientation experience. So we do have an evaluation for you all to fill out. And again, we'll send that through the breakout rooms so that you have the opportunity. This is really the most important for us so that we can continue to improve on the process for delivering this information to future undergrad students like yourselves. Thank you for being here. Don't forget that we do have coffee hours held every Friday, 5 to 6:30. Those will start back up officially on January 8th while we break for the winter holidays starting tomorrow. And now we're going to go ahead and launch into our breakout room conversations with CGE staff members.